Hey guys, Chef Jojo here with ECO, bringing you another episode of Shift Drink. And tonight we're going to talk about all the things that no one told me about of what it really means to be an executive chef. And as always, we're going to enjoy this topic over a drink. Wow, what a topic. I think it's going to be a little bit of an interesting discussion that we're going to have tonight. But before we get started in that, I want to throw out a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm basing a lot of what we're talking about tonight over the past decade of me being the executive chef of some very large properties. Now, I know it could be different in restaurants and in hotels or whatever, but when I say large properties, I mean like several hundred employees. So that's what I've kind of been dealing with over these past 9 to 12 years doing this. If you guys don't know, I am currently the executive chef of the Honda Center, the home of the Anaheim Ducks. Hence the beard. On the last Shift Drink, I was talking about growing it. We got knocked out of the playoffs by Predators, and so I decided to keep it. Anyway, I also want to thank you guys for all the messages of encouragement, telling me how you're enjoying the Shift Drinks. A lot of you guys had a lot of questions about just other things you're dealing with, and I just want to be here as a resource. So if you have a suggestion for a Shift Drink, shoot me a message. And you know what? If you have the time, go ahead and subscribe. Hit subscribe or the bell below. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or Twitter. So looking forward to actually interacting with you guys a little bit more. And as we get started, I really kind of want to back up and go to the beginning when I first started out as a line cook. You know, I was a really good cook, and I really enjoyed that part of the job, you know, making the food and prepping the food. And I was working in this, I believe it was a hotel, and one of the chefs had come by, and I think he was like a banquet chef. And maybe he was I don't believe he was one of the restaurant chefs, but he was maybe the exec sous chef. And he looked at me and he goes, you know, the higher you climb the ladder, the further you're going to get away from making the food. And I had just started cooking, and I mean, this was, I think, either my first or second job in the kitchen. And I was like, wow, what is he talking about? I mean, the executive chef or executive, that you guys can do whatever you want, right? You can come in and cook, or you can go into the office. You guys have your own little schedule. You do whatever you want. And little did I know that that is not as true as I thought it was. And I know that was probably the first flag that I completely missed. So this little thing of me telling you what nobody told me is somewhat true. But at the same time, I might have missed the message, just like, hey, the higher you climb the ladder. That was blatantly told to me. I just didn't fully understand it. So, you know, the other thing is that I've noticed that, you remember those awesome kitchen hands that you used to have? Or these, you could grab a saute pan, it could be warm, a hotel pan or a sheet tray, and they would be hot and you wouldn't feel it. Well, those hands get traded in for very soft and subtle hands that reply to email and use a mouse. You're going to trade in those tongs, a saute pan, and a knife for a laptop or an iPhone, so you can reply to the emails, or anything that is not in the kitchen, because you're going to start to be in charge. Now, I've noticed as people climb the ladder, you're a line cook, then you're a supervisor, then you're like a sous chef. And that switch in between the sous chef is you're kind of there for the chef and you're there for the cook. It's a very tough jump. But nobody really talks about the chef responsibilities or struggles. They're always just trying to climb the ladder, you know. I do know some line cooks that always say, hey, you know, I don't want to go into the meetings. That is one thing that's absolutely true. You do have a lot of meetings as an executive chef or as a chef of a big property. You are going to find yourself in budget meetings, forecast meetings, inventory meetings, BEO meetings, and the one in charge, you find yourself in a lot of the meetings about other meetings. It comes with the territory, because you're the one that is now kind of going to take this information and give it to your staff, and it's part of your role. Making sure that the other stuff is happening is also your responsibility. I jotted down that you're going to read a lot more P&L statements than you are recipes in the long run. And that's what it kind of does boil down to that. Your profit and loss is going to be the most important thing that you're responsible for. Your food has to be good, otherwise it's going to be really difficult to sell it. But at the same time, we're in charge of a business. You're here to make money for your company or for your restaurant. I'd like to know from you guys that own your places, the chef owners, what I'm a corporate guy, right? I work for the guys that own the Anaheim Ducks, and they have the contract for the Honda Center. So it's a corporate situation. But for you guys that own your establishment and you are the chef owner, that's a whole other world of responsibility, from nuts and bolts to, if anything breaks down, it falls on you. So I'd love to hear from you on those things that you didn't know about. But currently, as the executive chef of a big property, you're going to find yourself looking at forecasts all the time. You're going to constantly be checking your numbers because that's what everything is going to be graded on. The funny thing is that you're going to sit in a meeting and you're going to be expected to be able to run numbers in your head like an accountant. You're going to be expected to throw percentages out there. And then you get through with all that, and let's say something goes wrong in a party or something goes wrong before the game starts. Some guy burns the steak or he burns something on the line. They're going to be looking at you for an answer of why. So you not only have to do all the stuff that you used to do actually do it, you also are still responsible for that, and you have to make sure you're profitable. I didn't really understand that whole profit thing in the beginning of cooking. I was always like, ooh, it's going to be the best food if I do this, this, and this. I didn't really grasp the financial responsibility at being the executive chef. You don't hire a good executive chef over the whole building to work your saute station. That's just not where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be managing others. And it took a little while for me to understand that. And it's funny because on some of the days where you're really stressed out or you're having a rough one or you're just going through and you look over and you see that cook and you go, man, you reminisce on how much you used to love to have to be able to cook. You go in and that was like your sole purpose at the place was to be the cook. And hell, you even started to remember like when you're just the sous chef and you're like, you kind of had that in between where you could kind of cover a lot of bases and you could still work the stations, but you didn't have quite as many meetings. Or you didn't have quite as much of the responsibility. It was a good spot. And then when you finally are like, you've had enough, right? You've got to get back in the kitchen because it's really what brought you in the industry in the first place. You set up a project, and now this happens to me a lot. You guys can, poke fun if you'd like, but I'm like, I've had enough. I'm going in the kitchen and I'm going to do this project. And I'll come in and I'll start setting up the station, and a lot of the leads and supervisors that I have, they just kind of smirk. They're like, here we go again. Let's see if he's going to be able to finish the project this time. I pull it all out. I get the guys and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then 15, 20 minutes into the project, I'm like getting a call, or I need to go fix something, or I need to go look at something. And, they'll laugh as I'm walking out of the kitchen or away from the project. They'll go put it in the cooler, and they give me maybe 2 chances to come back. I'll come back and start again. And then typically I'll come back right for the game. And they're like, we took care of it for you, chef. And I'm like, once again, I'm not able to finish one of the projects in the kitchen. And, I don't want to sound like a naysayer on being an executive chef at all, because there's a lot of things that I get to do now that I never dreamed were going to be possible. Like, I didn't realize how rewarding it was going to be to really kind of work with young cooks and help them understand how to be a better cook, how to be a better chef, a better leader. That is just wildly rewarding. It's almost as if I'm serving someone a plate of food and I get to see their reaction. I mean, I kind of get chill bumps thinking about how much work we've done at the property I am now to make sure our cooks are learning. And I'm always really about trying to help that next brigade to come up in the line. And I don't think that I would be able to do that as well if I didn't climb that ladder, if I didn't find all those hurdles and I didn't have to jump through a lot of rings to get where I was. And you know what? I'm a really good executive chef. I used to be a really good cook. Now I'm a really good manager. And the funny thing is that I know you guys have seen that meme out there where it's got, what people think you actually do and what you really do. Like a lot of people think you're like just in the kitchen and flipping and sauteing and having a great time. And actually you're probably in an office and you're going through your numbers to be sure that you have enough money for your cooks to, work that extra hour, or you're hitting your labor costs or in your food costs and you got the food coming in. There's a lot more to it. And nobody really gives you the straight truth on the higher you go, the more financial responsibility that's going to be looked and piled into your lap. So there's some great things that you can do, and there's some things that come with that. That's the cross that you have to bear as the leader. And you know what? I love it. I think I'm where exactly I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. But I really wish that I would have paid attention and maybe not been as so bullheaded as I was coming up. I just wanted to share those thoughts with you. As always, I would love it if you could subscribe, follow us on YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Shoot me any questions or comments that you might have. I'm looking forward to hear from you. And as always, I'm Chef JoJo, and cheers until next time.